BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor, take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward. In today's episode, I interview former professional tennis player James McGee. He comes from the country of Ireland, and I came across him back in the early 2000s when he was rehabbing from an injury. We talked through the amazing journey that he went on starting back in Castleknock, Ireland, all the way into qualifying for the U.S. Open in 2014, representing his homeland in Davis Cup, and being able to talk about the trials and tribulations of the tour, the life lessons he learned, and how it can pay forward to you as the listener. Let's get into it.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Coleman Gerhardt, a former athlete and motivational coach. I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
Well, it's another tremendous privilege here today on the BTB Project to talk to a gentleman that I came across back in the early 2000s. And before we hopped on today, we were kind of chuckling because even though we still look young for our current state of life, we're incredibly humbled to be reconnected. And it's a tremendous honor to bring former professional tennis player representing his country of Ireland and helping kids and mentoring along the way, Mr. James McGee. Welcome to the BTB Project.
Coleman, it's great to be here. I'm delighted. I'm looking forward to this conversation. It was great just to see you a few weeks ago in Denver for Jeff Salzenstein's 50th birthday, who's a dear friend of both of us. So I'm looking forward to chatting and just hearing about how you're doing and chatting about life.
I appreciate that. And it's ironic that we did come across each other in that moment here in Colorado, and awesome to hear that you're in the States, in Las Vegas, where you've been able to dabble into some coaching and a lot of really awesome things that I can't wait to talk about. But what it makes me reflect on, James, is when I was able to meet you for the first time and kind of see how your career blossomed into what you did professionally. I remember a very distinct moment in your career back in 2014, where at that point you were kind of in a crossroads. You're trying to break in, you're trying to get into one of these majors, and here you are in this unbelievably crazy match, the last match of qualies at the U.S. Open in New York. And I remember seeing the ball bounce, and I remember the reaction and the euphoria that you had on your face. So I'd love for you to start by talking to the listeners about what it meant for you in 2014 to qualify for the U.S. Open.
Yeah, big, massive moment in my life, massive highlight. I turned pro in 2008. I was 21 years of age when I turned pro. And so I'd been grinding on the Futures Tour, been grinding on the Challenger Tour, and hadn't qualified into a slam. And as any pro player, their dream is to be in the top 100, play the slams, and then kind of move on from there. I was probably like 220 in the world, something along those lines. I went to the US Open. I got in. I went with Jeff Salzenstein, who coached me over the years. Just an amazing guy, amazing friend. And I won my first round fairly easily. Like I think it was like 1-2, came out of the gate strong. And then my second round qualies, I played a guy, Yuki Bambri from India. And so I played him the day before, and it was one of these super physical battles. It was really humid. It was really hot in New York. And I ended up winning 5 in the third the night before my last round qualies. It was one of these matches where I was cramping, where I was taking energy drinks just to get through the final set. I was taking a bunch of caffeine. but I didn't get off court till about 9 or 10 that night. It was a super, super late match. And anyone that's been to the US Open or played it, to get back to Manhattan, it's about an hour or so drive from Flushing Meadows. So we drove back, myself and Jeff, got back to the Airbnb. And here I was, still high from having won the match and still high from all the caffeine and the energy drinks that I'd been cramping. Because obviously after a match, you have to eat, you have to stretch, you have to maybe get a massage work. So I didn't get back into the city till probably, I think it was around midnight or 1 a.m.
Man.
And I was scheduled to play like second on after 10. But we work back because you have to warm up for your match. You have to get the physical warm up and do all that. And because I was so excited and because I was so high on all this caffeine that I've been taking, I couldn't sleep a wink that night. So here I am. I knew I had the biggest match of my life the next day. I was playing the Chinese number one at the time, Xi Zhang from China. And I played him in different tournaments. I'd seen him around, and I knew it was a very winnable match. And so my head hit the pillow at maybe 1 a.m. I had to get up at 7 a.m. the next day in order to get back to the site. So it was only going to be 6 hours of sleep. It wasn't ideal going into the biggest match of your career. I remember specifically looking at the clock right next to my bed, and I saw 1 o'clock in the morning. I turned my head. It was 1:30, turned my head. It was 2 o'clock, turned my head. It's 2:30 in the morning. And I could not sleep. I just could not sleep. I was anxious and I was excited. And so it's 5 a.m. and every 30 minutes I'm waking up and I call my parents and my parents are in Ireland. It's 5 or 6 hours ahead. I call them up. It's 10 or 11 in the morning their time. And this had never happened before. I'm literally have tears in my eyes. I'm like, I cannot sleep. I've got the biggest match of my life. I'm really worried, or I'm really excited to play, but I can't sleep. I don't know what to do. And my dad's like, I'll say a prayer for you, James. Like you come through this, don't worry about it. So anyway, I tried to fall back asleep. I get minimal rest. I got honestly 1 to 2 hours. And so I wake up or get up the next morning, barely got any sleep, go to the site, end up doing a really, really short warm up with Jeff for 20 minutes. I didn't even want to hit with anyone else because I didn't want them to see the state of mind I was in. I didn't want word to get out that I wasn't ready to play last round qualies. So I warm up with Jeff. After the match, I end up finding a small physio room right next to the gym in the US Open. I fall asleep, and 20 minutes later, Jeff knocks on the door. He's like, hey, you're on. I wake up, I get up, and that feeling when you have not slept all night and then you're just starting to sleep and you only get 20 minutes and then you have to get up. It's like the worst jet lag you can possibly imagine. And so I'm walking onto the court for the biggest match of my career. And keep in mind that I'm getting messages on Facebook and Twitter and text message best of luck in the final, we'll be rooting for you. All this other stuff is going on in the background, and I'm barely able to make it to the court. I get to the court and there's Irish flags, there's people cheering, there's a huge buzz, it's super exciting. I walk on the court and I cannot hit the ball. I'm literally shanking balls in the warm-up. I can't see the ball. I'm not clear. I'm just out of my element completely. I hadn't prepared to this degree to deal with something of this experience that I was having. Yeah. And so I end up losing the first set 6-love. And at this stage, I'm starting to think my dreams are starting to go away. I'm like, oh my God, this dream I had of qualifying into the US Open, it's slipping away all because I couldn't sleep the night before. This is going from a dream into a nightmare. And so what I did was I lose the first set 6-love, and I knew I had to find some energy. I had to pull something out of me that had never been pulled out of me before. And I had to find a way back into this match. I had to at least get a game and get into the match. So I took a bathroom break, and in the US Open, the bathroom is right next to the courts. And I ended up having using a bathroom, it was a public bathroom. So I'm washing my hands and there's the fans walking in hey, best of luck, McGee, you can do this. And I'm like, geez, man, I just got to get ready. I'm down a set, let me get ready for my second set. And so as I'm washing my hands, I'm getting ready to leave. I see a guy in there that's filling up a vending machine in the bathroom. And I said to him, can I get a Coke? And he gave me a Coke and a Mars bar because I needed it. I needed some sort of a boost. And by the way, I'm a health nut. I never drink soda or anything like that. I end up down in the Coke, eating a Mars bar. And Jeff sees me walking on court with a Coke and a Mars bar. And he's like, what the hell's going on here? I come out, I win the second set 6-2. I go 5-2 up in the third set. I just absolutely caught fire. something in me switched. And before what I'm serving for the match at 5-2 in the third set. And all of a sudden, the nerves kick in, the anxiety kicks in. I know I'm serving for the biggest moment of my life at that stage. And I end up losing my serve to Love. Like, I double fault twice. He makes one return. I miss it. I'm tight as I've ever been. I mean, I can't tell you how tight. I've never experienced to this day the level of tightness that I experienced in that match. I lose the next game to Love. So he's 5-3 down. He serves it out to Love. I'm on the changeover and I scream over to Jeff. I'm like, I need a Coke and a Mars bar. Like, this is what's going to get me through this moment. So I get off the change of ends. I go up to serve for the biggest match of my life. I go up 40-love and I lose the next 3 points. So I have match points. I lose the next 3 points. I go down 2 break points. So it goes add out to him. I save it. Add out to him. I save it. And again, like the emotions, the energy, like the crowd are going wild. People know that this is the biggest match of my life. And I somehow found it in me. I don't know how I did it. It was just figured it out. I threw the ball up. I aced him out wide to go match point up. 4th match point at this stage. I threw the ball up and I said to myself, use your legs on this serve. Like, use your legs to get up to this serve. And I wasn't expecting to ace him. I was just trying to hit a good wide serve. And I ended up acing him, falling to my knees, and never experienced this before Coleman, but just started weeping. Just tears came out. Uncontrollable levels of relief and joy, and ended up shaking hands with him. Jeff took the video, fell to my knees. And for me, it was a moment in my life that I'll obviously never forget. It was full of joy, but it was also full of pain. And it was a very memorable moment in my life. You can watch it on YouTube if anyone wants to check it out.
I'll definitely put that in the podcast notes, James. And it was just amazing for me, coming from my tennis background and being a coach, just to hear what we just walked through. I mean, talk about every single strain of emotion that you experienced in that match, before the match, after the match. Hopefully you got an endorsement from Coke and Mars after that. But,
no, I didn't.
it makes me think about what it all really came down to truly lead up to that point. And I want to go all the way back. I want to go back to Castleknock. 7 years old, I believe, is when this journey started for you.
Yep.
And I just would love for you to let us into, how did tennis come across James McGee, and reflecting back in that moment in 2014 and everything that it took to get there. How did this career start for you, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, I played a bunch of sports growing up in Ireland. We have the 2 national sports, Gaelic football and hurling. I played that along with, I was part of a football team. What you Americans say soccer. So I grew up playing soccer and playing a bunch of different sports. And on the road outside my house, I'd play with all my neighbors. And I was always a very active kid. I used to climb trees a lot, and I was always super, super active. But my mom was actually a badminton player. She grew up in the countryside in a place called Monaghan, and she played badminton, and she got into tennis. And so she was the first person to kind of put a racket in my hand and introduce me to the game. And I remember as a kid outside in my back garden, when you have a tennis ball attached to a rope. And then
I started, it was like a big like rubber band and like a weight, and you could hit it and it would come back to you. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. And that's what I did. And it was just, I enjoyed the challenge of trying to like coordinate my racket to the ball. And then that led to me going to my local tennis club, Castleknock Lawn Tennis Club. And my mom got me into the game, just playing here and there. And it started off slow. And then I remember, like, when it got to competition time, I was really excited at the prospect of returning my mom's serve. In my mind, my mom had the biggest serve of all time. My mom doesn't have a big serve at all, but in my little 7-year-old mind, I thought this thing was huge. So just to return it was exciting for me. And so what happened was, and I have a very distinct memory when I was a kid, something happened where I was misbehaving on the court, or I wasn't acting appropriately. And my mom and I had agreed that we we're going to play tennis for an hour. And after 20 minutes, like, I started misbehaving. She's like, you do that one more time, you're off the court. Like, I'm not putting up with this. And so I did something, whether I threw my racket or I said something I shouldn't have said. And she just got up and she left. And this was only 20, 25 minutes after playing tennis. And
Mm.
I bawled my eyes out. I'm crying. I'm screaming like, please, like. And it was at that stage I realized how much I love this sport. Like I love to play, I love to compete, I love the feeling of hitting the tennis ball. And there's something so enjoyable just by playing and moving the body. And I love to run and things like that. And so it all began kind of back then as a maybe I'm trying to remember like maybe like 6, 7, 8 year old. And then when I was 9 or 10, I started playing my first tournaments in Ireland, and it kind of grew from there. So that's really how it got started. My mom got me into it. I played a bunch of sports, but tennis just stood out to me. Not to mention, by the way, that every summer Wimbledon will be on,
Yes.
and on the BBC Sports Channel, and we would just watch that. And for me, growing up watching Andre Agassi, watching Tim Henman, watching all the greats, Pete Sampras, it was just so inspiring to me to see that. And then that planted a seed in my mind. And the idea, honestly, Coleman, of turning pro in my mind, it was like, this is impossible.
Right.
That's how it felt at the time. It didn't feel any way real. It was really a pipe dream. And I just to even go to Wimbledon was a big deal, and be a fan, never mind actually consider playing. And I never ended up playing the main draw in Wimbledon. I did play the qualifying 4 times, which is a cool experience. But yeah, that's how it started, man. And I'm very grateful for the journey that I've been on. I've obviously, it's not like I've been number one in the world and I've won Grand Slams and I've done crazy things in the sport to change the history of the sport, but I had the opportunity to live a childhood dream and to go after something that I wanted from a young boy growing up in Dublin, Ireland. And that's something that
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for. And it means a lot to me. I gave it everything I possibly could, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, and I think it's really telling to see how much your country means to you, and it always resonated with me when I watched you play with the sweatbands and the flags. Like it was very patriotic to your country, how you represented Ireland, and it was something that was just incredibly inspiring. And again, I saw and knew of you well before those moments where you're representing Davis Cup and getting into majors. But I thought it was really interesting knowing outside of how you started this 3 consecutive years of where you're winning a team tennis championship. But it sounded like as you were developing, you noticed right away that you were having some success in your homeland.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Castleknock, and I played there until I was about 12 or 13 years of age. And I wasn't a top junior under 12. Like I remember making the semifinals of my national championships under 12, which was a huge deal for me. Like, I felt like I should have lost in the first or second round, and I fluked a few matches. I definitely wasn't number one under 12. I lost in the final of my national championships under 14, which is a tough loss looking back. I really felt like I could have won that match, but the guy who beat me in the final, a guy named Warren Atkins, he totally deserved it. He's from the west of Ireland, a place called Castlebar. So I wasn't like even up to 14, it wasn't like I was a ridiculous talent or anything like that. But things started to shift for me between 13 or 14 years of age when I met my coach, a Canadian coach by the name of Larry Jurevich, who still lives in Canada. He runs some tennis centers there up in Vancouver. P3, or it's called the Tennis Center, is the name of his centers up there. But yeah, Larry's been teaching since the mid 90s, and he came to Ireland in the early 2000s when I was a 13-year-old, and he'd actually been mentored by a guy named Louis Caillé. And anyone that's involved in tennis and knows, they will know who Louis Caillé is. And Louis Caillé has basically single-handedly transformed British tennis. He's a Canadian coach, but he works in British tennis now. He's helped so many of their players win Grand Slams, both in singles and doubles. He works with Jamie Murray. He currently works with Joe Salisbury. He works with Johnny Murray. He's worked with all these top players. My coach Larry was mentored by Louis. So I was fortunate enough to be getting some really great information at a young age, like where the coaching was high quality coaching. Like every practice had a purpose. Larry was huge on instilling belief and hard work in me. And so it was the first time as a youngster, like Larry would say things like, hey, James, like one day you're going to be playing the US Open. One day you're going to be playing this tournament. One day you're going to be playing that tournament. And he was putting seeds in my mind at a young age, like, hey, you need to strive for more. You need to aim for more. and you need to like have bigger ambitions for yourself and not be in this small town mindset where, oh, I just want to, whatever it might be. Like he wanted me thinking bigger. He wanted me thinking bigger. And so he had a big impact on my life. He coached me for 4 or 5 years up until I was 17 or 18. And obviously I was growing a lot during that stage. I got much bigger. I got much stronger. And by the time I was 17, I was one of the top players in Ireland, and I was beating senior players. I was winning tons of junior tournaments and that type of thing. And so it was really in that period from 13 to 17, 13 to 18, that I started to take tennis very seriously. And I started to think it's time to consider being a pro and not to shy away from it. So that's how it happened.
Gotcha. And the three consecutive championships. So were you able to attend high school in Ireland?
Yes. So I went to a school called Belvedere College.
Okay.
And it was in those years between, I was there 13 until 17. And it was in those years that we won the high school championships. Like, I think it was 3 or 4 years in a row, but we were very fortunate because everyone that was on my high school tennis team at Belvedere, we trained together with Larry in our squads after school. So we were practicing in the morning, we were going to school, and then afterwards we play our high school tennis matches. So we were training all year around, and we were getting the same coaching off Larry. So we really had an unstoppable team at the time. I mean, we knew before the season started that we were going to win it because we were just head and shoulders. No offense to the other teams, but we had really put in the work and we were so ready. And that is a lot of credit must go to Larry for that experience, as well as the other guys that were on the team. I mean, we had James McGee, who played at LSU. We had Darren McLaughlin, who played at Indiana. We had Rory Green, who played at Yale. Paul Foley, who played at Purdue. So we had a bunch of players that went on to play college tennis who were all top players. And so, yeah, that's what our team was like.
Yeah. And it's amazing with your development that you were able to tap into that high school tennis piece, because you see some of the American players that are on the tour, formerly on the tour, the paths have been kind of more interesting as of recently. You get the rarity of like a Jack Sock who actually played high school tennis all 4 years, didn't lose a match, who ends up going on the tour. And then you see guys kind of like a John Isner who did the college path and had a great, outstanding long career. But to make that jump from juniors to professional tennis, you see it more on the female side because they just tend to mature quicker than us guys. But nonetheless, the fact that you had that path that led you to eventually being able to play college tennis in the States, I would love for you to talk about how you got to North Carolina State and what was that recruiting process like? Because coming from my background, man, I mean, I played D1 tennis at Northern Colorado. I played 4 Americans in 4 years. I came across international talent all the time. And I'd love to hear how your journey got you to the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll be honest, I had no plans to play college tennis. And one of the challenges growing up in Ireland is we didn't have a massive amount of professional tennis players or guys that I could look up to and ask for advice and guidance. We just didn't have the numbers. I actually left high school, left Belvedere College in Ireland, and I moved to Spain because at the time in Barcelona, that was the hub of professional tennis. So you would have the likes of Andy Murray was living in Barcelona. Nadal was in Mallorca, but he would come to Barcelona to train. You had like a ton of top 100 tennis players, and everyone, all the top European players, they were all based out of Barcelona. So I had the opportunity. I was fortunate to have a couple of sponsors that noticed me as a junior. And they said, all right, listen, James, you're going to have to leave Ireland if you want to actually pursue this dream of being a pro tennis player, move to Barcelona and go to an academy and take it from there. The problem was I ended up going to the wrong academy. I wasn't surrounded by the best players. I thought I was in the right academy. And a lot of these academies, you think you're in the right place, but they'll siphon you off and they'll put you with maybe a lower group when you really want to be practicing with the top players. And it was a real challenge for me to get up and play with top players. When I was there, I was on my own. There was a language barrier. And to be quite honest, the kids who I was rooming with and hanging out with, they didn't want to be serious tennis players. they were sent there by their parents as a kind of like a babysitting service, to be honest. Like these kids, like they weren't that serious about their tennis. And I was 100% all in trying to make a career for myself. And so what ended up happening is I ended up working so hard in Barcelona because I was putting in, we were maybe training 6 hours a day, but I would train an extra 2 hours in the evening. I would go to the gym, which it sounds great and all, but as a 17-year-old who's still growing and needs to recover, I didn't understand what that meant. So I ended up getting injured. I got an injury in my hand
Wow.
and a bone in my hand called the hook of the hamate bone. And it was a really bad stress fracture that wouldn't heal. And long story short, I didn't play tennis for a year and a half. So a lot of people
Wow.
don't know that. Yeah. So between just after I turned 17, for about a year and a half, I didn't lift a racket. And I ended up playing tennis with my left hand. And I would just to keep my coordination. And I remember during that injury period, I remember going on the tennis court without a racket because just to lift up a bottle like this would be painful in my hand. Just to lift anything up, I couldn't hold a tennis racket. And so I would go on the court and I would just visualize. I'd move to my backhand, I'd swing a backhand, I'd move to the right, I'd hit my forehand, I'd move up and back. And then I started videoing my movement just with a camera. And the cameras back then weren't great. And so that was how I spent a year and a half. I did a bit of gym work and I worked with a physio. And so coming back to your question of like, how did I get involved in NC State? It was during that period of time that I realized after a year and a half, firstly, my sponsors came to me and they said, we don't want to keep sponsoring you. You've been injured for a year and a half. You're going to have to look at the college route to if you want to go pro. And I hadn't put in any amount of work in the recruitment process. To be honest, I couldn't tell you whether North Carolina was on the East Coast or the West Coast. That's how clueless I was at the time. I didn't know the different conferences. And so my friend, a guy named Connor Taylor, went to NC State. He went there for 2 years, played college tennis, loved it, did really well in terms of he would come back to Ireland every summer and tell me what the competition is like. And he would tell me the parties in America are unbelievable and this and that. And I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe I'll do it for a year or two. And I'll because to be at this stage, I just need matches and I need to find some sort of pathway to get on to eventually become a pro. And so I did one recruiting trip, which was to NC State. That would have been in probably 2005. The only other school I talked to was Berkeley, and I couldn't get into Berkeley because I was looking for a full scholarship at the time.
Right.
And none of the schools would be willing to give me a full scholarship because I'd been injured for a year and a half. But NC State, in fairness to them, they were the one school that ended up giving me a full ride. It's really through my friend Connor, who put in a good word with the coach and said, listen, you got to try this. You got to trust me and give me a shot because he's good for the team. And I ended up doing 2 years at NC State, made quarterfinals of the NCAAs our first year. And that was really how I got involved in the recruitment process and eventually going to play college tennis in North Carolina.
Yeah, what an unbelievable story to know that you came off of an injury like that. I mean, we were just talking about before we hopped on. I mean, all of the things that we appreciate with our dexterity, right? Being able to hands, wrists, fingers, feet, all the things that we just are used to having it work all the time. When any of that's taken away at any given time in tennis, it is incredibly challenging to come back from. So the fact that you were able to overcome that, able to get to a program like an NC State's, to get to the NCAAs the way that you did. I mean, at that point, I know that the state of American tennis and the NCAAs was pretty competitive. I had some good friends of mine, Colorado natives, that were playing at Boise State at the time, Luke and Clancy Shields.
I know them, yes.
Very good players, and now they're both college coaches at Arizona and Boise State, respectively. And my time playing D1 tennis and just knowing the amazing players that I came across, and it makes me think, again, going back to your path and eventually representing your country again, Davis Cup. I remember playing, we had a school in our conference, in the Big Sky Conference, Sacramento State, and they were known for having multiple Mexico Davis Cup players on the team. So I remember whenever we would play Sacramento State, it was going to be, unless I'm coming in trying to serve and volley, it was 864 ball rallies at the baseline. These clay quarters just grinded me down. But it just goes back to, again, that patriotic moment. You did the NC State thing. Obviously you did the tour thing, which we'll talk about more, but what did it mean for you to suit up for your country as a Davis Cup participant?
Yeah, unbelievable. It was something I wanted to do my whole life. I mean, any player, anyone that turns pro, they want to play for their country at some stage, whether it's in the Olympics or whether it's in Davis Cup or whatever. But for me, my first time that I got the call up was 2009. We were playing Davis Cup in Algeria, of all places. So Northern Africa, playing against Algeria. Oh God, just think about this, because this is what, 2009. So this is 14 years ago. I haven't thought about this honestly since, like, you asked me this question. All of a sudden, memories are coming up, and I lost my first tie in 5 sets, and
Oh,
it was on red clay. Oh God, just thinking about it. It was on red clay, and it was a very, very winnable match, I remember. But I ended up losing the first match that I played. I think we won doubles. Yeah, we did win doubles. I played with Colin O'Brien. We ended up winning doubles, and we won the tie. But I ended up playing Davis Cup between 2009 and last Davis Cup match I played was 2000.
mm,
And it was, Davis Cup brings out something in you that the individual tournaments just doesn't bring out, both good and bad. It shows the best of you and it shows the worst of you. And I remember there's so many ties to talk about. So I can't talk about each one, but there's a tremendous amount of pride. There's a tremendous amount of honor that you feel when you have your country on your back,
right.
and you're giving your all out there. And yeah, I'm grateful looking back. I'm grateful to have played for Ireland. And actually, one cool moment that we had was when we played against, I think it was Morocco. Yeah, Morocco came to, or no, it was Egypt. Egypt came to Ireland, and we played in my home club in Castleknock.
Oh,
It
wow.
was such a meaningful moment to be able to play Davis Cup for my country in my home club. I mean, we had never hosted a Davis Cup tie before, ever. And it was just so special to be able to play and see all these people who I grew up with all of a sudden watching me play on the courts that we would have grown up with. So yeah, man, it was special. It was meaningful, and yeah, it's great memories. Also tough memories, because some of my toughest losses were in Davis Cup, but some of my best wins were in Davis Cup. So yeah.
It's just, as we walk through your career, I hear about what you did, what's equivalent to high school in the States, what you were doing, winning those 3 championships, to having these qualifying moments to play in majors, to Davis Cup. I'm just curious, as we talk through some of these meaningful matches. I mean, where does Davis Cup rank in the journey of James McGee?
Ooh, man. I think when you look back on your career, this is what I'll say. When you look back on your career, what tends to stand out are the most emotional moments and the most emotional matches, because you tend to remember things that are extremely emotional. And so when I look back on my career, like I can't remember 100 matches, but I can remember maybe 6 to 7 matches that are very, very clear for me, like the US Open last round qualies that we talked about.
Yep.
But Davis Cup is way up there. Like, I remember one year playing in Egypt. So it was a group 2 match against Egypt. So this time it was away. Egypt played in Ireland once, but in 2012 it was away to Egypt. And it was a group 2 relegation match. We'd had a difficult year. I think we had lost to maybe Luxembourg earlier that year, maybe
Mm,
getting the years mixed up. But we lost to a country. We had a group 2 relegation match. So if we lost, we were going to go into group 3, which isn't a great group to be in. It's a difficult group to get out of. And so we ended up flying to Cairo. In Celsius, it was like 43 degrees Celsius, which is probably in Fahrenheit 112 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit, on red clay in Cairo, away on this clay is super, super bouncy. And growing up in Ireland, we don't have bouncy red clay courts, so the conditions are completely different. And so first day on the Friday, I play singles, Sam Barry plays singles. I win my match, I think, like in 4 sets. Sam Barry loses a tight 5-set match. So it's 1-1 after the first day. Saturday rolls round. Myself and Sam win our doubles, I think, in 4 or 5 sets again. So we're up 2-1 going into the Sunday. And so again, like nerves are high. It's very anxious. Like we're trying to qualify. We're trying to stay in the group. We don't want to go down to group 2. We don't want to be relegated. And so we're 2-1 up, and Sam is playing against the Egyptian #1 player at the time. And he's in a winning position. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, he wins this. I don't have to play my singles. We can just celebrate and go home. Like, this is
Yeah.
great. Long story short, he loses a very tough, heartbreaking 5.5-hour match. I mean, it was the most ridiculous match you could imagine on the clay, like 50-shot rallies.
Yep.
Both of them are cramping. It's super, super physical. So I go out. I'm already exhausted from watching his match. I can't believe that I have another match to play. I've played 2 5-setters the previous 2 days, singles and doubles. And so I end up going 2 sets to 1 up. I play a guy named Sharif Sabri, who was about 500 in the world at the time. I was probably 300 or 400. I had seen him play in different futures events. I knew he knew his way around the clay court. It was a winnable match, but it was going to be a tough match. Any match away in Davis Cup is tough, especially against a clay courter. So I go 2 sets to 1 up. And when I won the second set, I looked across the net and I was like, I got him. Like, this guy is done. I can see his head dropping. My energy's high. I'm going to win this match. It's going to be a celebration. Can't wait. And so what ends up happening was the referee walks on the court and brings us together. And he's like, hey, guys, we're going to have to cancel the match due to bad light. And we're going to have to postpone the match and put it on Monday. And this had never happened before in a Davis Cup match, taking the tie from a Sunday to a Monday, because the lighting that they had at the facility in the stadium, it wasn't up to ITF standards. And they're like, the lighting's not good enough. The sun's about to go down. They're not up to ITF regulations. You're not allowed to play.
You're channeling your inner John Isner, Nicholas Mahut moment right here, man.
100%. This is going to go on forever.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening, we went back to the hotel. We changed all our flights because we had our flights out of Cairo on Monday morning. We had to change all our flights. And we think about it, like we have a team of like 7 players or something like that. And then we had our physio and we had our coaches and we had everyone involved. So we had to change all that, come back on the Monday. I end up, so starting the 4th set, I lose the 4th set. The guy comes out. Again, it's one of these moments where it's a roller coaster where you think for sure, like this is going to become a nightmare again. I somehow, and again, I've played a bunch of matches a few days in a row. I'm exhausted. I go into the 5th set. I go 5-2 up in the 3rd, and I'm serving for it. So I'm 5-2 up, serving for it. Lose that game, have a smash on the net, hit a smash. I have an overhead on top of the net. I hit it. And as I hit it, my teammates run onto the court to celebrate with me. But you can see on the red clay that I missed it by an inch. I missed the smash by an inch. And my opponent, like rightfully so, he circles the mark. I lose my serve, but I end up losing that game and then the next game. And so it was 5-4. And what happened was my opponent was serving at 5-4. I have 2 more match points. I lose the 2 match points. Again, this is a huge match. You're playing for your country. You don't want to get relegated. There's a lot of pressure. You've been staying there in the entire week. And to sum it up, Coleman, this is what happened. It's match point me. The guy hits a drop shot to my backhand. And these are moments that you remember in your life, like when you can replay back in slow motion. And so he drop shots it to my backhand. I run up, I slide, I hit a backhand kind of down the line. But as I hit it, I can see him. He's clearly in position. I see him putting his right leg out. He's sliding. He has the whole cross court open to hit a winner to win the point and get back in the game. And so I see it in slow motion. He hits the forehand cross. And I literally, I just stick my racket out like this. For anyone watching, they can see on the video what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I stick my arm out as much as I can stick it out. I hold the racket on like the edge of my finger and I dive. I jump and I dive and I make a shank volley drop shot winner to win the match. So I fell to the ground. My team jumped on me. We end up winning the tie, and Davis Cup is special. It's emotional. It stands out. And that's one moment for me that was really, really special.
Absolutely, man. What a roller coaster moment. What a euphoric moment. And I just appreciate you walking me and the listeners through that. It, again, makes me reflect because how our paths crossed, where you spent a little bit of time in Colorado. And I believe at that point you were dealing with some injuries and you were trying to really try to figure out how to get your body right. It's just been amazing for me being a Colorado native, being around guys like Jeff, other tour players. Believe it or not, I have ties to Oliver Marich, who was a very
Yes,
good
yes,
doubles player.
right?
That's right. Yeah. He
Yeah,
had ties to one of the high school players that I was coaching here in
yeah.
Colorado, and he would come out to our high school practices, and he was one of the top doubles players in the world. And
It's amazing.
to have those ties is remarkable. And then just a few weeks ago, I had a gentleman by the name of Brian Battistone on the podcast
I
who
know Brian really well.
knows you well and remember seeing you and Jeff on the tour. And I believe he's residing in Las Vegas as well now.
Yeah,
And it's just as I say that, and as the tennis community is very small.
very
And
much.
when it comes to unpacking all of the people that you've come across in your life, all of the mentors, all of the coaches, all of the players, I'd love for you to share maybe somebody or a group of folks that allowed you to be who you are today. Because I know that you were a professional tennis player, but as we talk about what your chapter has been after pro tennis, I think there's been a lot of very critical people in your life. And I'd love for you to speak to some of the mentors that have allowed you to be who you are today.
Oh man, there's so many. There's so many. And one of my fears in answering this question is I might not do it justice and I might miss someone. There's so many that have helped me and there's so many meaningful people in my life. So I just want to start off by saying that. And I want to list as many people as I can, but I will say, like I mentioned before, as a young teenager, Larry Jurovich in Canada had a big impact on my life. I can't not say that. He had a huge impact for me growing up in Ireland and getting me on the path. I think once I got on the tour, there's a few people that really stood out. In 2006, I met a guy named Joseph O'Dwyer,
Yes.
who coached Jeff actually on the tour for a number of years. And Joe is one of the biggest characters you'll ever meet. And I met him through a friend of mine, a guy named Carl Falsey, who went out to Alabama to coach tennis because Joe was living in Alabama at the time. And long story short, why he was down in Alabama, but he had been living in Atlanta. But
Yeah.
Carl connected me with Joe. Joe came back to Ireland. This was the December of 2006. I met Joe for the first time. And it was the first time I met someone that had been coaching on the tour and had coached a lot of pro players and had been to all these big tournaments. And that was very exciting for me because I hadn't really been around a tremendous amount of coaches that had been at the highest level and had been around the best players in the world. So I kind of hung on every word that he said. And I loved learning from him. And he was talking about different shots like the buggy whip forehand. And this is what you do when you get a low slice. And this is what you do when you get a low volley. And you need to have tail on your serve and you need to focus on the margins. And he was using all this terminology that I hadn't heard before. I'm like a sponge when it comes to learning and about my game. And I would ask him a ton of questions. And so I remember when I met Joe, that was a great opening and a great learning moment for me. And he showed up to different tournaments that I played in Ireland. Through Joe, I met Jeff. So I met Jeff Salzenstein in 2007 in Atlanta. And it was when Jeff was coming to the end of his career. And it was really at my stage when I was beginning my career. And Jeff just stood out to me right away. I'll never forget the moment we met. We met like kind of in a car park near a field in Atlanta. And I just felt connected to this dude. Like I was like, there's something about this guy that's special. Like he's open. Even though he's been a top 100 player, I didn't feel like he was looking down on me. I didn't feel like he wanted to just beat me. Like here's a kind soul that wanted what was best for me and was willing to share all that he had learned. And so Jeff is just a massive student of the game. He's constantly looking to learn and to grow and to improve. Well, we have the nickname, myself and Joe gave him the nickname Seagull.
Yeah.
And from the book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, it's an amazing book. And I've actually given it to a number of kids who I coach. And it's a story about a seagull that wants to fly higher and higher and faster and faster and further, while the rest of the flock of seagulls, all they want to do is just eat food and compete against each other for that was their day-to-day existence. And so the whole story is about aiming high and trusting your intuition and following your heart. And Jeff is one of those guys that very much lives that way. And I feel I live that way as well. And we connected on that level. And he had a massive impact on me. We obviously spoke about the US Open qualifying in 2014. Jeff's a dear friend, obviously, to this day, but he helped me at numerous times throughout my career. And just personally, professionally, can't speak highly enough of Jeff. And then obviously throughout my career, I had a great physical therapist in Ireland, a guy named Jared Hartman, who he was the physical therapist for the Irish Olympic team, for the English Olympic team. He worked with Usain Bolt. He worked with Paula Radcliffe. He worked with all these athletes in all these different disciplines. And he was a person that believed in me and that got my body in shape. And anytime I came home to Ireland, he would look after me and get me back on track. And I can't thank him enough, because there's no doubt about it, I would have had a lot more injuries if it wasn't for him. So he had a big impact on me. And then just throughout my career, I had a bunch of different people, between my college roommate and friend Nick Cavaday and a bunch of other people from England. Nick's an amazing coach in England, and he's helped a lot of people. He does a lot of great work. And again, like, these are the people that stand out to me that have had a huge influence on my tennis career, not to mention this other guy, Richard D'Souza, who's a mental coach. I'm kind of naming everyone at the moment.
Hey, man, I love it, because listen, tennis can be a very lonely place sometimes when you're out there as a singles player and you're grinding. And a lot of people don't understand the supporting cast that it takes for someone to compete at the level that you did. And I know I'm putting you on the spot with some of these names, but as you're saying these names and as you're sharing the stories and as you're sharing the piece that they were to your life, it shows how grateful you are for the support system you had to get up to, I mean, James, your career, you wrapped up as high as 146 in the world. That doesn't happen without a good supporting cast.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you, Coleman. And obviously, to have people in your corner, you need to be able to, a lot of times you need to be able to pay them. And tennis is such an expensive sport. There's a lot of talk, and it's great that more people are talking about it, about tennis, and how if you're not inside the top 100, I mean, you're not making a living unless you are inside the top 100 playing slams. And I had to rely on the goodness of other people so many times. I had to rely on people being willing to help me and not being able to get paid massively. Like, I tried to do a lot of it alone for many years. And that's something I haven't spoken about yet. Like, I turned pro in 2008, but in 2009, 2010, and the beginning of 2011, I mean, I had no funds whatsoever. I was $6,000 in debt. I actually wrote about the experience in my blog when I had a blog, jamesmcgeetennis.com. And I wrote about just the strain of being a professional tennis player. And so what I would do at that stage, I would have been 22, 23. At that stage, I played league tennis in France and Germany, and I played for different clubs. And I would make enough money in 1 week just to make it to the next week. And then and then the same process would repeat itself. And I did everything in my power to save money. I wrote a blog post called Financing the Tour, which got like 100,000 views. And in that, I explained like all the different things I would do, between washing my laundry in the bathtub, to flying budget airlines, to getting the cheapest food, to doing all these different ways just to survive. And I was extremely fortunate in 2011, I believe it was 12 years ago, my local club, Castleknock Lawn Tennis Club, they came into a bit of money, and they saw that I was grinding on the tour, and they reached out to me, and they decided to support me financially. And from that stage, things started to shift, because at that stage, I was traveling alone for 2.5 years. I was sleeping in hostels and hotel and sofas of friends' apartments and things like that. And so when they reached out to me, I was actually able to stay in a regular hotel, and I was able to bring a coach with me. I brought Joe with me to some tournaments. And at that stage, my ranking went up. I got to 300 in the world, and then I got to 250, and I started playing challengers. And anyone that plays Grand Slams knows that you need to be roughly top 230, 220 in the world to get into the qualifying of a Grand Slam. That's usually the cutoff point. Like, if you're inside 220, you're pretty much safe. And so I got up to top 220 in the world, and that's when I got into the qualifying of Wimbledon. And then I got into the qualifying of the French and the Australian Open. And once I was in those major tournaments, even though it was qualies, things started to take off for me. People started to take notice. There was more media attention. All of a sudden, I had another sponsor here, another sponsor there. And I had my blog posts at the same, which was my way of reaching out and sharing my life story with people, hoping that people would read it. And there were very few tennis players at the time that had blogs and that they were writing about it and sharing it on Twitter. I was sharing it on Twitter and Facebook at the time.
Love it.
And that's really how I was able to survive out there for so long.
Man, no, that's so remarkable because a lot of people don't understand that perspective and how challenging it is to make it on the tour and do what you did. And it was a nice segue now into your playing career ends. You find yourself in Las Vegas and you're a coach. And this is where I'm just super excited to hear what you have to say. I have people come to me all the time and are incredibly inspired by what I did as a player, what I overcame, or so on and so forth. But man, because I can't imagine a player not understanding what you've been through, what path that you've taken. They should be incredibly grateful when they're on that court with you, because like you said, you're a wealth of knowledge. You're somebody that loves the game. You're someone that, in a lot of due respects, have seen it all.
It's hard to say because I can't tell what they're thinking. I mean, a lot of kids, they might not know or understand because they're young and it's all they know, what I mean? And so we're very fortunate at the academy where it's not just myself that's there, but there's Dave McPherson, who coached Bob and Mike Bryan to 16 Grand Slams. He's coached John Isner for 7 years. So our kids are exposed to incredible coaching, along with Tim Blenkiron, who coached Jeannie Bouchard for a number of years. He currently coaches Asia Mohammed. We have Jake Lisgard, who's a completely committed and passionate coach. And we have all our other coaches who are just fantastic. So I don't know if the kids some of them don't really ask about my history and what I've done. And it's not something I go out preaching and saying, I've done this and I've done that. At the end of the day, they're looking for solid coaching and they're looking for their game to get better. And so I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer, but I'll say that from my perspective, what I ask of them is their best effort, is their best attitude, and to be coachable. And what is coachable? It's to listen, and it's to try to implement the things that we're trying to teach. And so I would say the vast majority of kids most of them are pretty good at that. But there's also typical teenagers who might not want to hear that, or they think they know better. And that's part of being a teenager. And it's great for me because you've got to learn how to deliver a message a different way to each person. And you've also got to be patient. If you get upset because someone's not listening, that's not going to work either. Coaching is a completely different ball game to playing, and I enjoy it. It's got its challenges as well. And speaking to Vegas and the No Quit Tennis Academy, I mean, we have a great team of people who are committed and passionate and good natured, and that's all you can ask in a coach.
Yeah, and I'm always fascinated how people answer that question, because I ask it in the frame of how really my coaching career started, and it was paying for a private tennis lesson with Jeff Salzenstein. And Jeff had no idea why, being a former collegiate tennis player, I would want to pay for a lesson with him. But the reason why I did that was because I wanted to pick his brain. I knew his story. I knew his journey. And being a Colorado guy myself, I just wanted to articulate as much information as I possibly could. And then that same type of philosophy, when I think of other people that I've talked to, I talked to the great coach Greg Patton, who spent many years at Boise State and actually became a high school tennis coach for a year. And I asked him the question, like, what do these high school kids do coming to high school tennis practice, knowing you were playing for like NCAA championships and had amazing guys and coaching all of the US players that you've coached? I mean, what did that moment mean to you? And then guys like Dick Gould talking to him about what did it mean to have people coming, John McEnroe, like playing for you, like, what did that mean? And the answer was very similar to how you responded, James, is that as much as you've had the success, as much as you've seen a lot of euphoric moments in your life representing your country, you're so humble about it. And it's all about the person that you're trying to help. It's all about understanding what makes them tick. It's all about aligning your skill set and adapting and adjusting to help the people that you want to support. And that
Yeah.
speaks to who you are as a person, man. And I know that forehands and backhands are a big part of your life. And I know No Quit is incredibly humbled to have you. But I want to speak lastly on really what makes you tick and the movement that you're on, the mission that you're on to help
Yeah.
kids outside of the tennis court. Can you speak to the listeners about some projects that you have on the side?
Absolutely. I'd like to give a bit of backstory first, just so people understand how I got to Vegas in the first place. So I ended my tennis career end of 2017 at the US Open, hurt my back. At that stage in my life, and a lot of tennis players have spoken about it, I was really being challenged mentally with the lifestyle. It was challenging, and I was under a lot of pressure financially. I was lonely. I was feeling depressed as a tennis player. I was dealing with anxiety. I was dealing with these emotions. And I realized the injury that I got in my back, I felt that that was a byproduct of what I was feeling emotionally. Because I was feeling all over the place mentally, I was like, sometimes your body like creates an injury. It forced me to stop. It was tough at the time, but it was also one of the best things to happen to me. So I used the following 6 months to kind of evaluate where I'm at in my life and what the next stage of my life is going to look like. And I realized after 6 months that I didn't want to go back to the tour. My heart wasn't in it. I wasn't interested in the lifestyle. For whatever reason, my passion to compete, it wasn't there, which was so rare because it was one of these non-negotiables that had been there my entire life. And so rewind back to NC State back in 2006. My roommate in college in NC State was a guy named Frederick Prendecki. And Frederick was from Las Vegas. And when we were roommates at the time, I was 19 years of age. And Freddie would tell me stories about growing up in Vegas and how he ended up getting to NC State. And he told me that there was this guy named Ryan Wolfington when he was a 13 or 14-year-old that took him under his wing because he was a good tennis player, but he was very angry. His parents had just gotten divorced. He was very angry about his parents' divorce. He was hanging out with the wrong kids. He was partying. He didn't have the funding or the money to go and play these junior tennis tournaments. As we know, playing junior tennis, it's expensive. You're traveling, you're going here and there, you're paying for hotels and travel and that type of thing. And so this guy, Ryan, saw something in my friend Freddie as a 13, 14-year-old teenager. And he basically said to him, he said, if you work hard, if you work hard, if you start doing the right thing, if you stop doing the wrong thing and you start hanging around with the right people, I'll find a way to fund your tournaments. I'll find a way to get you to play these tournaments, and we're going to get you a college scholarship.
Wow.
Now, no one in Freddie's family had ever earned a college scholarship before. No one had actually even graduated from high school in his family. And so what ended up happening was over the course of the next 4 to 5 years, Freddie completely changed his life. He started dedicating himself much more to his tennis. He stopped hanging around with the wrong friend group, which, by the way, were gang members, and they got involved in a lot of them ended up going to jail and really struggling in different things in their life. He started doing the right thing. And one of the big principles that Ryan had for my friend Freddie was he had to earn his own way. Ryan wasn't just going to give him money and just for the sake of giving him money so he feels sorry for himself and that's going to help him play tennis tournaments. He had to earn his own way by sweeping the tennis courts every day. We've 3 clay courts in Las Vegas, and he would have to sweep them for 2 hours every night and clean the facility. And if he did that, then Ryan would help him get this funding to play different tennis tournaments. And so Freddie told me these stories growing up and told me how this guy, Ryan, had a massive impact on his life. And what happened was Ryan helped, not only did he help Freddie, but he helped another kid, another kid, another kid, another kid. And he's ended up helping hundreds and hundreds of kids and built up this youth foundation in Las Vegas, which is now called the Inspiring Children Foundation.
Wow.
It was founded by Ryan and another guy named Marty Hennessy. And anyone that knows tennis and involved in tennis, they know who Marty Hennessy is in Las Vegas. He's an absolute legend in Las Vegas. Still coaching to this day at the Sterling Club here in Vegas. Absolute legend of a guy. And so I was so inspired by Freddie's story, even back then as a 19-year-old. And when it came to the end of my tennis career and I didn't know what I wanted to do next, I decided to reach out to Freddie. And I said, hey, Freddie, like, tell me about this guy, Ryan. I want to know more about him. I want to know more about this youth foundation, because I understand from following you and the foundation on Facebook, I understand that it focuses on tennis, entrepreneurship, mental health, and project-driven learning. And there's a lot of different facets to this organization. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? And so I ended up talking to Freddie, got on a phone call with Ryan, and he presented this opportunity for me to come to Las Vegas and to work for the foundation as well as the No Quit Tennis Academy. Now, I know there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and so I'll try and there's a lot of people and there's a lot of words and things like that. But I ended up coming out to Las Vegas, and I was so impressed at the humans that were in this program. And at the end of the day, that's what you're doing as a tennis coach. You're coaching humans. It's not really about tennis. It's really about life and the lessons that you're teaching them. And I understood when I came out here that it was about the person. It was about the whole human. I was impressed with the mental side of things. I was impressed with the entrepreneurship side of things, and that you can be a great tennis player, but your life can be a mess. I knew that myself, yes, being a tennis player, because I was a good tennis player, but my life wasn't where I wanted it to be. And so I ended up coming out, and that's how I ended up coming to Vegas in the first place back in end of 2018. And why I've been involved in this program and why it means so much to me. And over the course of the last 5 years, we've had tons of kids get college scholarships. We've had tons of lives being changed. We've had kids dealing with everything from addiction to suicidal ideation to depression to anxiety to just day-to-day challenges. And the idea of the foundation is to support these kids and to help them be part of an ecosystem where they can support each other. And that's why I'm over here. And it's really special. It's really meaningful. And purpose is important in my life. I want to feel like I have a sense of purpose in what I'm doing. And I really felt like I got that when I came to Vegas.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, streamline going on here with you talking about having that blog back in the day, and probably you writing some of those words of what you were dealing with was kind of your vessel, your outlet to kind of articulate some of those moments instead of internalizing them. And I can deeply relate to the movement that you guys are on, because the BTB project doesn't exist without a lot of trial and tribulation that I went through as a kid, and wishing I had an outlet, a vessel very similar to what you guys provide, to now taking this concept of being called Big Teddy Bear growing up to now asking the question, what are you built to be? What are you built to become? That's the question I ask each person that I'm trying to help, and aligning outlets, aligning resources, aligning a community to go allow these kids to go do something inspiring. And it just is unbelievably humbling to hear you say that, James. And it just shows your heart for people, your heart as a human being. And it makes me think of one last question for you here. Is we've walked through a lot. You've had an extraordinary career, and now you're giving back as a coach and a mentor. But if you had an opportunity, James, being able to go back, and let's say it's a little coffee shop in Ireland. I don't know if coffee's big out there, but unless you had a chance of who you are now, man, the knowledge that you have, the war stories, whatever it may be, and you got to sit down with your 18-year-old self at that moment in your life where you're kind of at a crossroads trying to figure things out, but you got to go back to that person, what you would say to encourage a young James McGee.
Wow, that's a profound question. Like, I've never really thought about that. What I would say to my 18-year-old self, man, the first thing I'd do is I'd listen. I wouldn't say anything. I would listen, and I would just be kind of like, I would listen to the logic and what I'm thinking. And I think one thing I would do, it's not so much what you say. They just need to know that you care. If I had to go back, I'd have to show my 18-year-old self that I care. And I think that's a big part of being a coach. Like, being a good coach is that you care about that person. You care about their lives, and not just them as a tennis player. And I've always found like the best advice for me has never been tennis advice. It's been life advice. It's been just that's the most important thing. Man, this is like opening up. I could write a book on this topic. But I think I would encourage myself to be aware of who I surround myself with, number one. So the people you surround yourself with are everything. If you're around the wrong people, you firstly, when you're around the wrong people, it's not like you don't know if you're around the wrong people. So I'd say the people you surround yourself with are everything. And having good friends and good community is very, very important in your life. If you're around the wrong people, the wrong people can sidetrack your entire life, and they can put you down the wrong direction, and they can lead you to bad habits and a bad lifestyle. You have to be very, very careful of that. I would say, tying into that, because I said you already know if you're around the right people, I said you have to trust your intuition. I think in life, you have to trust your intuition. Learn to trust your intuition, because we always have a sense of what's right. We always have a sense of where to go. And a lot of the mistakes that I've made in my life is when I've ignored that sense. It's when I've knew the right thing is to move this way, but I've gone this way. And so I would encourage myself to listen to my intuition. I would encourage myself to surround myself with the right people. And I would encourage myself to enjoy the journey, man. I got too serious. And I, even now to this day, like, I'm a thoughtful person. I think hard about things. I think deeply about things, but that's both positive and a negative, because if you think too deep, you can get in your own head and you can get in your own way. And one of the ways to get out of that, that's helped me, is to enjoy things and have fun in the right way, not to goof off, but to have fun in a meaningful way. If you can have fun in a meaningful way, surround yourself with the right people, trust your intuition, and just focus on doing the right thing, taking one step at a time, and just don't think about, if you have to climb a mountain, don't think about the top of the mountain. Think about the next step that you have to take, and living in that way, living in a mindful way, where you're just, okay, what's the next step right now? What's the next step right now? What's the next step right now? If you're doing that and you're living in a mindful way, you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong, because all you're doing is you're trusting your higher self, and you're taking the right step forward in every moment. I mean, wherever you end up being is where you're meant to be. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I really believe in that. I really believe in trusting a higher force in a higher power, and trusting in that. And yeah, man, it's a beautiful topic. I really would have a lot of things to say to myself, but as I said, I'd listen first, and that's what I do.
Yeah, I became what I believe a better coach when I stopped coaching at kids and started coaching with kids. And asking someone what they're built to be is a very strategic, open-ended question, not for to continue to ask questions, but for me to listen. And that's profound, man, what you said. And I believe you've gotten to that point because of everything that you've learned on your journey, and the way that you're giving back now as a coach and a mentor, and the story of how you got to Las Vegas. Incredibly inspiring for me, incredibly inspiring for the listeners. And James, I couldn't be more proud of you. I know that your country's proud of you. I know your family's proud of you. But as a friend, and being able to celebrate our friends just a few weeks back and reconnect, it has been incredibly inspiring for me to share this moment with you. And I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me on the BTB project.
Man, it's my pleasure, and it's my honor to be here. And I'm glad that we reconnected and this came about. I'd love to, I don't want to hog the mic, but I'd love to do a part 2 at some stage. Maybe if there's an opportunity. I'm having so much fun with this conversation, and almost, Coleman, I feel like you're my therapist right now, because talked about stuff like I don't talk about this on a daily basis. It's not like that this happens. So it's a win-win for both ways. And I hope whatever has been shared and talked about, I hope someone can be impacted, or they can be influenced in a positive direction in some way. I mean, that's ultimately what we want. And what we want to see. We want to see a better world, a world where people are inspired and they're motivated and they're doing the right thing and they're helping other people. So I appreciate you creating this project and creating this podcast and asking me to be on it, because it wouldn't have happened had you not asked me. So I really appreciate it, man. And yeah, man, I'm delighted we've reconnected after all these years, because we definitely didn't talk for a few years.
Right.
But it's to know
100%.
that you're doing great things and you're married with kids now, and it's hard to believe. It's amazing how fast life goes, and let's just keep enjoying it. And again, thank you for what you're doing. And if you want to do this again, just let me know. We'll do it.
Awesome, man. Well, James McGee, thank you. I'll make sure to leave information on how people can connect with you, and whether it's no quits or the projects you're working on. Proud of you, man, and definitely a part two in the future. So thank you for your time.
For sure, Coleman.